Well, the New Orleans Saints seem poised to hire Kellen Moore as the next head coach. More and more, we're getting reports, sort of like Adam Schefter doubling down yesterday on NFL Live, that it's going to happen, and even reports they're going to meet again Monday morning after the Super Bowl. Now we're starting to hear some rumors about assistant head coaches. Feeling good about the Moore hire. So let's talk about the assistants. I'm Tim. Let's talk Saints. So I think the first name that we need to talk about is current Eagles quarterback coach Doug Nussmeier. He's a name that keeps coming up, and it makes a lot of sense because you see that relationship between quarterbacks, coaches, and offensive coordinators an awful lot as they move around, and it's pretty much kind of the stepping stone for a lot of these guys coming up from the offensive side: quarterback coach to coordinator to head coach. And so I think these pairings kind of ride up the system together as a way to getting started. You can look back at the Shanahan tree, the Andy Reid tree. That's one that comes to mind that's happened quite a few times. The McVay tree, just recent examples, and if you go back over the probably last 2 or 3 decades, you see that kind of progression. So this makes an awful lot of sense. Doug Nussmeier should be a very familiar name for Saints fans. He was our backup quarterback from 94 to 97. Played in the NFL through 98, 99, with also the Broncos, the Colts, and the Bears. Went to the CFL, played a year with the British Columbia Lions. It's also where he started his coaching career as a quarterback coach with BC and then with Ottawa. Michigan State as a quarterback coach for a couple of years. Rams hired him as a quarterback coach from 2006, 2007, 2008 to 2017. He went back to college, basically quarterback coach, offensive coordinator at Fresno State, Washington, Michigan, Florida, and Alabama, where he won a BCS national championship as OC. So there's a lot stacked up on the resume on the offensive side, working with quarterbacks and coordinating. Dallas hires him in 2018 and 2019. He was their tight end coach. From 20 to 22, he was the quarterback coach. Kellen Moore, during that time, was the offensive coordinator, at least from 2019 to 2022. When Moore went to the Chargers in 2023 as offensive coordinator, Nussmeier followed him as quarterback coach. 2024, Moore becomes the Eagles coordinator. Nussmeier follows him as quarterback coach. So I don't think this is really necessary rumor. I think it's fairly probable. Right now, he has no other title with Philly other than quarterback coach. So Philly conceivably couldn't block him if Moore is going to come in as the head coach and say, I want Nussmeier as my coordinator or assistant head coach or something, signaling a promotion over quarterback coach. Kind of keeps Philly from being able to block him. Like I said, this one makes a lot of sense. And more the name kind of comes up. It's almost like it's directly tied to Moore that, hey, if Moore gets the Saints head coaching job, Doug Nussmeier's following him in some capacity, possibly offensive coordinator. We'll see how it plays out. But I'm like, you can put as confident as you're feeling about Moore being hired by the Saints, almost equally as confident that Doug Nussmeier will be coming along. Now, the next one's extremely interesting, and it's based on a comment on his Thursday media availability at the Super Bowl when Kellen Moore was asked about his younger brother, Kirby Moore. And everybody, I shouldn't say everybody, but a lot of people picked up on a particular comment. He's quoted as saying, talking about Kirby, he's done an awesome job. I mean, they've had double-digit wins the last 2 years to turn that thing around. Played a really high level on offense. I know he's going to have a lot of really good opportunities, very shortly for himself. So in a way, that was kind of read into that maybe he's looking at bringing younger brother Kirby Moore along with him to the Saints. The Kirby Moore is kind of an interesting name, and I did not realize they were brothers. I guess I should have known that. Watching an awful lot of SEC football, I'm familiar with Kirby Moore at University of Missouri. But Like his brother played at Boise State, was a wide receiver there. 20 to 2013 was his last year. 2015 to 2016, he was a graduate assistant at Washington under Chris Peterson, who was his coach at Boise State. Fresno State, he 2017 to 2021. And there he worked under Jed Tedford, who resigned. Kalen DeBoer took over. DeBoer eventually took the job back at Washington, or was hired by Washington to replace Chris Peterson, and Jed Tedford came back. Through that back and forth, he was retained at Fresno State. 2017 to 2019, he was a wide receiver coach. 2020 and 2021, he had been promoted to passing game coordinator and wide receivers. 2022, he was promoted again, the offensive coordinator and quarterback coach. And then in 2023, Eli Drinkowitz, Missouri's head coach, hires him to be the offensive coordinator and the quarterback coach. Kind of really over less than 10 years, he kind of had a meteoric rise up the college coaching ranks and worked for some really good college head coaches in Peterson, Tedford, DeBoer, and Drinkowitz. So, and if you watch Missouri play the last 2 years, say what you want about the team itself, but that offense could put up points and put up yards. So I can almost see this in a weird sort of way making sense, especially if Nussmeier comes along. My guess would be offensive coordinator. And then the quarterback's coach slot opens up, and it's kind of a good almost internship with a guy who's been in coaching about 10 years and had a meteoric rise up the college ranks. Maybe something to work with. You're probably thinking the same thing I'm thinking, though, because they're brothers, a little nepotism. Are we cutting some favors? Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. But, and look, Moore, this is kind of, I think, on a large scale, a lot of people's first in the New Orleans area, especially exposure to Kellen Moore. And for all we know, he was just throwing a little when they asked him, that last part of that, really good opportunities, very shortly for himself, may just be a little bit of a troll and messing with us. We don't know, but saying something like that in a Super Bowl media scrum gets picked up on and gets people thinking. Now, third name that, and I don't even know if this is a rumor as much as a wish list because candidate, which is right now the run game coordinator, offensive line coach for Philly, Jeff Stoutland. It's a wish list for me, especially now that we're confirmed. Everybody kind of thought it was going to happen, but John Benton has moved on. And when you look at the Saints' offensive line last year, I think, at least for me, it exceeded expectations on what they could possibly do. They weren't the best offensive line by any stretch of imagination in football, but I think a lot of people projected them to be well in the bottom of the league in offensive lines. And at times we were, but it wasn't long stretches. And at times we played really well, not necessarily for long stretches, but I think overall in the middle, if for lack of a better phrase, it was a middle of the road NFL offensive line, but I didn't expect it to be honest with you. That may be a large part of John Benton. And if you don't get a really good offensive line coach type in here, who knows what happens. Stoutland's a great offensive line coach, arguably or not arguably, depending on who you talk to, the best in the NFL, which is why I think this is a pipe dream wish list. But you never know. 1 year working relationship with Moore as opposed to a long-time relationship in Philly, because he's been coaching since 1984, and from 84 to 2010, he's got a giant who's who resume of linebacker coach. Actually is where he started, and then he flipped to the offensive side of the ball, but offensive line coach, offensive coordinator, twice at Southern Connecticut, Syracuse, Cornell, Michigan State, Miami of Florida. And he's at Miami of Florida. Randy Shannon was hired. He actually was interim head coach for one game, a bowl game in 2010. 2011 and 2012, Nick Saban. And this is where you really start having to pay attention. Nick Saban scoops him up, and he is the offensive line coach, Alabama, back-to-back national championships those 2 years. Eagles grab him. been the offensive line coach from 2013 to 2017. And then in 2018, they added the run game coordinator, which you see that a lot. The Saints have done it a lot. You can kind of look at Philly's current coaching roster. An indication that they've got a good one is when they start adding those, offensive line to run game coordinator, considered a promotion, harder for teams to come in and uh, poach good coaches out. That's one of the ways you kind of protect them. It would be a coup if Kellen Moore could get Stoutland. There's just no other way to say it into New Orleans. But I think the one way that it could is if Stoutland decided, hey, I want to, I'm a longtime offensive line coach. I want to take a shot at that coordinator, working my way up to head coach. That would be one way to do it. Again, to follow like an offensive coordinator is getting a head coach, a lot like we talked about Nussmeier, and they would have to give him some type of um, assistant head coach or offensive coordinator, however it's going to work, to have the ability to try to move him away from Philly. But I got to think really, and I don't think anybody, like I said, has thrown this out as an actual rumor as much as just, man, it would be really great if we got him. But I really think Philly would have to have a strong consideration to go. Moore gets hired by the Saints. Stoutland's getting the offensive coordinator tag, and we're letting him step up if he wants to do it. It would probably make sense as an opportunity to do so. But see how it plays out. But man, if come Monday night or Tuesday morning, whenever they announce this, and he rolls out, yeah, I'm bringing Nussmeier and Stoutland with me. I'm going to be ecstatic. I'm going to feel really, really good about the offense. The last one that I feel like we have to talk about, because very early on when the name Kellen Moore started to surface, I kept hearing this kind of link to Brandon Staley, because his 1 year in the with the Chargers was Staley's last year, because he was his third year as head coach, and he was fired along with the whole staff, purged out. That's how Moore wound up in Philly. And everybody knows that the Brandon Staley was just not a very good head coach in San Diego. And I was kind of familiar with the name. I knew he was a defensive coordinator. Staley, couldn't really remember where I'd heard the name from until actually having a conversation with brother-in-law saying, yeah, he was great as the Rams defensive coordinator, but that was a stacked team. Oh, the 2020 Rams defense. Gotcha. And quick hit on his resume. Staley, longtime college coach, 10, 11 years, 2006 to 2016. Northern Illinois and Tennessee was where he was a grad assistant. He did linebacker coach, secondary coach, defensive coordinator at places like St. Thomas, Hutchinson, John Carroll, James Madison. I mean, not exactly the hotbed of college football, I guess, but I mean, it is what it is. But he progressed through the system that way. The Bears grabbed him as an outside linebacker coach 2017, 2018. The Broncos had him as an outside linebackers coach in 2019. It's when the Rams hired him as his 1 year as defensive coordinator. And in that year, just to refresh all our memories about a really good defense, that was first in least yardage allowed, first in least number of points allowed, first in passing yardage allowed, third in um, rushing yards allowed. So basically, you didn't move the ball or score points on him for the most part. But his brother-in-law said that was a stacked team. You go back and look. Great players. Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, all pros, almost, especially Donald, locked to be Hall of Famers. Really good players. I forgot Leonard Floyd was there with his 11 sacks that year. And Michael Brockers, who was a mainstay for years on that Rams defensive line, never put up exceptional numbers, but he was that guy that jammed stuff up in the middle that they couldn't move around. And as great as Aaron Donald, like Leonard Floyd in that particular year were, they get even better when you got a guy like Brock who's just going at, not going to grab a lot of sacks or a lot of tackles, but I am going to occupy space and force them to move me around or to move people off the line of scrimmage, give Donald and Floyd and guys like that chances to not get blocked. And I had totally forgotten he was there until I started looking at their roster going, holy crap, man, that guy was really, really good for years at what he was asked to do. But more importantly, they had the two that leap immediately to mind, which Troy Hill is a cornerback and kind of slot corner, and John Johnson the third as their safeties. They're good football players. They had I don't know if any of them either one of them still in the league, but they had monster years that year. That kind of thing where you were so good that good, really good NFL players like these guys have great, tremendous years because a Jalen Ramsey, an Aaron Donald, a Leonard Floyd, guys like that tend to whenever and they all those three had monster years. Everybody else just feeds off of it and gets better and throws up numbers. Point being, I don't know if this is real in the Brandon Staley sense, but that name and Joe Woods has just left, which I think we all knew he wasn't sticking around. So the DC job is definitely open. I don't know, just a 1-year connection because Brandon Staley hired him is enough to keep hearing that name come up as a possible defensive coordinator. Because I guarantee you, we do not have anybody on the level that he had for the 1 year he was a DC in the Rams. This one scares me a little bit if it turns out to be true, but quite honestly, however loosely his name keeps coming up attached to Kellen Moore, really the only one I've heard in 2 weeks from the defensive side. So we'll see. But honestly, as much as I don't, Nussmeier, I think is a good move. Stoutland would just be, like I said earlier, a coup of all coups if Moore can get him into New Orleans. Kirby Moore, we'll see. But Staley's the one that honestly, it scares me a little bit. 15 years ago today was the play. Was the game-winning play, Super Bowl 44. Tracy Porter, pick six. I was in the stadium that day, and I can honestly say that was the greatest moment of my whole entire Saints fandom. Never been topped since on a singular play. My number one favorite. We've had some great ones over the years. But 15 years ago today, that play sealed the Super Bowl for us. Memories, right? So that's all I got today, and I had to kind of leave with that one because that's I didn't even realize till I woke up this morning and saw something going, oh, yeah, we won the Super Bowl 15 years ago today. Hopefully we have a situation coming up real soon where Kellen Moore is going to help get the ship going the right way. Try to pick up. Look, I know it was lightning in the bottle when Sean Payton, under kind of similar circumstances, never been a head coach, young, considered genius offensive mind showing up here. Worked out for us. Maybe we can catch lightning in a bottle and again, and in a few years, a very, very, very happy moment in New Orleans Saints history with Porter getting the pick six, sealing the deal, and with 3 minutes plus left to go in the game, everybody in the stadium, trust me, including all the Colts fans filing out, everybody in the stadium knew over, done deal, the Lombardi was coming to New Orleans. Definitely one more time in my lifetime would love to see that happen again. So that's what I got for you today. Thank you for joining. If it's your first time here, the old like, share, subscribe, share it. It helps us out a whole lot. Channel's still growing and we want to continue to grow. Also, leave the comments. Let me know what you're thinking about the four names that kind of got bandied about in the last few days, or in some cases the last few weeks. And I haven't heard, as of Friday morning when I'm filming this, I haven't heard anything new, any other names really popping in. But with Adam Schefter again, kind of yesterday, had a little double down as he's expected to be head coach. Read on Louisiana Sportsnet that, yeah, they're supposed to meet again Monday morning. getting to be more and more like a done deal. There may be more potential assistant staff floating around out there that I just haven't been able to catch yet. Go ahead, drop them in the comments. Make sure I'm kind of aware of them, because I'm hoping the next time you see me is going to be a live stream Monday night, Tuesday sometime, Tuesday night, whenever, when this is officially a done deal and we can start moving on to the next phases, draft, free agency, fixing the salary cap, all that other crap that we got to do. So we can have another Tracy Porter moment in a Super Bowl, and hopefully sometime soon. We'll see. So till I see you next time, I'm Tim. Peace out and who dat.